Hello everyone. I'm just going to do a very quick drawing demo for you today. A couple of different things that you can look at doing, approaches, ideas, hopefully helpful, hopefully relevant to what it is that you're doing in terms of your artist. Yeah, a couple of things that can sort of take you forward. So the first one being is looking at layering. And here's my pan around the room to piece of work I'll show you first of all. So first of all, looking at layering a little bit. Now, I've got in front of me some coffee, some strings, some salt, some inks. If you've got watercolours or pastels or various sorts of things like that, and all of those things could be useful, depending on what it is that you've got. So here's, on this one, I've put down some different surfaces. Yeah, I've put down some different things onto here. I'm just trying to add a little bit of detail, a bit more definition to things because it's got a little bit lost and a little bit too sort of busy, I would say. And I'll work into that. What you could also do is maybe if some of the areas are too white, for instance, and sort of coming forward a little bit too much, I'm just going to sort of soften those. Coffee, tea, got watercolours if you've got those knocking around. Might be you want to create something a bit messier. I am by nature a messy artist, so apologies if you are sort of a neater inclination, but you could get sort of various inks or coffee or varnish. I have to clean this all up. The cleaner's going to kill me. So it gives you a rough idea. And then in certain areas, you might want to sort of create more shadow, more contrast. So it's quite light over here. I'll just sort of add a little bit more depth. You get the idea. Okay, so there's one potential sort of approach that you can take. I'm not so happy with some of these areas up here, so I'm going to soften those because they're sort of a bit too stark. Some of those lines needs to be a bit more tone. But other than that, I can work into that, and I don't need to bore you with watching me working on it. Okay, so that's one particular approach: building up layering, using different materials, mixed media, using drip marks. Building up sort of a bit of surface and richness of tone and depth. And if you are going to work like that, and you're going to work with, even if it's just washes in the background that you put down, you will probably need to let it dry, come back to it, emphasize the tone, emphasize certain areas of what it is that you're working on. Next thing, if you are using an image that you're working from, here's what I showed earlier. So there's the image. And what you can do from an image is turn it into this. So that's using a technique which you can find how to do on the HSFC YouTube channel, where it says electronic line drawing, and you can turn, and it teaches you how to do that because you've got access to Photoshop at home. So you'll be able to do this at home. So if you fancy having a go at this, the tutorial's online, and I go through it, and I've done screenshots or sort of live sort of shots of how to do it. So you can then print that out and work from it if you like, or print it out and work into it even. That would be absolutely fine. So you've got an example here of a photograph that I've used. Now, if you're not overly confident about drawing out, you're struggling with structures and things like that, you could use this little cheat. Yeah, so making your own carbon paper essentially, rubbing that on the back of it, and then drawing something out, and I'll just sort of angle this down so that you can see. Okay. So that's obviously on the back. Now wherever I draw is going to leave some marks on the page. And even if you're doing this very simply or quickly, as I am doing for you, you get some sort of drawing, some sense of sort of the perspective, the line, the main shapes, and you'll get it quite quickly. Okay, so that's another approach. It's a bit like monoprinting. If you take your time on this, you can get some really fantastic results. But obviously I'm not, and I've moved it, so it's all going to splurge everywhere. Another thing that you could try. So I'll just have to zoom out a little bit for this. There we go. So using texture and working onto sort of certain areas, you could be using sort of a similar image. So it's looser with what it is I've just been looking at in terms of it's messier with what it is I've just been doing. But what you could be doing is once you've put down a surface or a texture like this, is making it more accurate. So for example, there is too much sort of contrast here. And then sort of drawing into it. Now there's lots of paint marks and collage on this, so it's harder, in reality to work onto. It's going to be harder to make as accurate. If you don't like working on something like this, then I would avoid too much texture, because you won't be able to get the marks that you want or have the level of accuracy. But the first year is all about you trying out different things. So this is one way of doing that. There's certain areas, so say for example here I splodged a bit too much ink on that, but then obviously let it dry, come back into it. Yeah, if you want it slightly more accurate, and if you properly let it dry, which I've not done, you can get a bit more accuracy in what you're doing. Equally, if you did want to be mucky and sort of really lay lots of texture and surface down, and you could, if you're looking for drip marks or what have you, different surfaces. There is generally more light on this side of the image, so I probably don't want to sort of lose too much of that, but equally I don't want it to be so stark and light either, so I can come back to that and then work back into it to a certain amount. Probably some areas the lines are a bit too thick, so I'll come back and work back into that. But it's a process of elimination. You sort of take away, add a bit more, and the hardest bit is knowing when to stop, which I still struggle with. So that's a slightly more sort of gestural approach. What you could do, as well as if you're putting washes down, is put salt, household salt, into certain areas, especially if you're using like inks or watercolor or something. Then when you let that dry on top of it, it creates really lovely sort of texture. You can brush it all off. So that's another little idea for you as well. So there's a couple of things that are hopefully useful. If you've got the appropriate inks, I don't know if you will have at home. It's the only way you can find out is by trying it. But you could try something where you can see here in certain areas I've just splodged ink into certain areas, and then I've added bleach and it's bleached it. It all depends on the type of ink. We've got it at college, and it's just drawing ink, bleachable artist ink. So I don't know if you'll have that, but you could certainly try that and give that a go. I don't know why it comes on backwards. Very strange. But yeah, the key thing is if you are doing anything textured, don't make it too thick. If you put in a whole massive chunks of cardboard box on there, you're going to struggle to make anything sort of more accurate. If you want to be sort of slightly more sort of traditional and look at working on a board and drip mark, making that sort of really helps. So just to review, to summarize, working with texture, avoid overly thick surfaces, try and sort of create an accurate drawing in a sense of perspective, even if you are going to work into it in a quite abstract fashion, that'll still benefit you in the drawing and your approach. The other thing that you can try is the electronic line drawing. which is a tutorial on the HSFC A-level art YouTube channel. There's a link on the VLE too. I can post that on if anybody is interested and wants to find it. The other thing that you can try and do is obviously use washes, layering, build up rich surfaces and different tone, and obviously sort of add contrast and detail as you progress. Anyway, I hope that's useful. I hope you're all well, and I'll be in touch.